As a coach, there is nothing more frustrating and disappointing than having a perfect client, somebody that you can genuinely help and change their life, tap out and hit the eject button early. Often I see this with coaches where their clients leave at about the 3 to 4 month mark when they're only scratching the surface, when it comes to results. And really the client is leaving just as soon as the novelty's worn off. Well, when I was coaching, I had clients that stayed with me for more than 5 years online. And I've also, of course, worked with a bunch of coaches over the past few years where they come to me and their average client lifetime is about that 3 to 4 month mark. I install the things that I'm about to teach you in this video, and suddenly their average lifetime value of a client now becomes 8, 10, 12 months. So in this video, I'm going to run you through exactly what you need to be doing in the short term, mid-term, long term to keep clients around forever that never want to leave. If you're new here, I'm Adam Haley, and I've helped over 3,500 people at this point leave their full-time jobs or quit the gym floor and go fully online. All I talk about on this channel is how to start and scale an online fitness business. If you're coming back to the channel, then a big welcome back. Hope you enjoy this one. Okay, let's jump in. So I'm going to break this down, as mentioned, into short, mid, and long-term, little bite-sized tactics that you can implement that are going to keep clients in the business for months and years instead of weeks and months. Let's kick off with the short term. There's a few things here that are really, really important that we do from day one. I'm sure you have worked with a coach yourself or even just bought a product or a service in the past, and your opinion and your trust and buy-in to this product or service or person was either made or broken within the first 3 to 7 days. So this initial period is really, really important. And for me, it all starts, number one, with congruency. So what I mean by congruency is it's really important when somebody signs up to something that what they were promised before they made the purchase actually gets delivered on the back end. So let me give you a real quick example. There's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of coaches, if you look at their Instagram bios or their content and stuff on Instagram, they'll use phrases like helping you get into the shape of your life without giving up the foods that you love. Or get 6-pack abs, or drop 15 pounds while still eating chocolate and drinking wine. And these sorts of statements, there is nothing wrong with them. The issue becomes if that's your front end message, and then the second that somebody gets onto the inside of the program, suddenly they're sent like a set meal plan. And they're told, no, we're going to have to limit that, right? For now. The client is like, I kind of feel missold. Your entire messaging is this, but what you're delivering is that. It's a real fast way to break trust. So congruency of the deliverables. So of course, the amount of accountability they're going to receive, response times, access to certain apps and so on. Everything that you make promises about through the sales process or the marketing process must be delivered on the inside of the program. And the final thing, of course, is expectation management and congruency here as well. So if you're on the sales call selling them the dream that they're going to lose all of this weight within, 4 weeks, 30 days, 6 weeks, whatever it may be, and the reality is that this is actually going to be a long process for them, they're going to feel really demotivated when they hit these milestones of time and they're behind progress for what you have made out as possible. So it's a really easy way of shooting yourself in the foot there. Number two is clarity. What I mean by clarity is what you want when we have a coaching service. On this side, we have underwhelm, which is where somebody comes in and then they see what you're delivering and they go, I've done this 100 times. I've seen this before. I could have just Googled this. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have coaches that have good intentions, but they overwhelm the client. They give them so many things to do, ask them tons of questions. They use really complex language, and the person just gets overwhelmed and tapped out. We really want to aim for the sweet spot. And this is different for every niche, every coaching style. So I can't give you a one size fits all, but you just want to make sure that when somebody comes into the program, during their first 7 days, they know exactly what's expected of them. It's not too complex, but it's not a case of they've signed up and they've heard nothing and they're really underwhelmed. You really want to strive for them to just at each 24-hour increment to know exactly what they are going to receive next. So there's no lack of clarity, there's no confusion. For example, I started working with a company recently over some online deliverables. And I had a sales call, with this person. He told me XYZ. I paid the money and then I didn't hear anything for 2.5 days. And then I just got this generic automated email that asked me to fill in a form, but there was no context as to what the form was about. I filled the form in, I didn't know if anybody had even received it. I was just confused after the purchase, and that makes you kind of resent it, and you're already, the company is already on the back foot because you've began to lose trust because of a communication breakdown. I want to make sure that the client knows exactly what their next step is every single day for that first week. The third one is a real obvious one, but it's just for them to feel supported and like they've got you in their back pocket. Again, a really easy way to break trust is throughout the sales process. If the communication with you or whoever sells them into the business is like lightning fast replies, lots of follow-ups, from the business's side to the client to try and get them over the line. And then once they're on the inside, the reality is completely different. And they're just, sent like some onboarding loom or a quick onboarding call. And then they're just told, right, I'll speak to you next week on your check-in. Like, again, it's just a really fast way to build trust and lead to overwhelm. So it's really important that throughout that first 7 days, you just keep the client up to speed with what you're working on behind the scenes. Or once you've delivered their initial programs and so on, do you just check in with them the following day? Hey, any questions off the back of yesterday's call? Now that you've had a chance to sleep on it. When that they've gone and done their first gym session, they've ticked it off. Quick pat on the back. Great job. Just so you logged your first workout. Amazing work. Anything that was confusing in there. Just go over and above, like the classic undersell, over deliver from a support point of view. And then next up is quick wins. This will be the fourth thing when it comes to the short-term stuff. You want to try and engineer your program in a way that the client does see some form of tangible result within the first 7 to 10 days. This creates really quick buy-in. Now, in a weight loss offer, this might be, and I'm not saying this is correct, but it might be some form of initial, more strict approach to dieting, so long as that's not what you're like polarizing to your message on the front end, so that they get some quick, drop on the scales, or they just reduce some bloating, or maybe there's some supplements that help them with their sleep, so straight away their sleep and energy levels have increased. We just want something that has them go, I've made the right decision here. The hard work is going to pay off. So as an example, when somebody joins the OTE, we have an initial quick cash process that means that they sign up, and our goal is before really their first 7 to 10 days is up, we want them to be 2 to 3 clients in the bag, so that they immediately have big trust in us from the subject. So anyway, you want to think about a way that you can try and get quick buy-in, and we call it TTR, time to result. So what can you do so that the client feels like they're seeing some form of quick win very, very early on in the process? So those are some quick fire things that you need to make sure that you think about and basically go, yes, I'm doing that. Yes, I'm doing that. Yes, I'm doing that. Yes, I'm doing that, to those 4 pieces there. We move into the medium term, which is the kind of like the meat and potatoes of your coaching, okay? So assuming that we're talking about either body composition training, so whether that's muscle growth or fat loss, the first thing is what I call the 4 levers. I call these the 4 levers of progression. A big mistake that I see coaches make is when I see a coach that has a high drop-off rate around months 3 or 4, I go through the initial nutrition, training, supplementation, and sort of cardio / output that the client has been set up on. So these are the 4 levers that you can pull, to help somebody improve their body composition. And then I'll check at about the 6-week mark, and I'll see compared to when they begun, what has changed here. And then I'll forward to like the 12-week mark. And again, I'll go through and see what's changed. And oftentimes, maybe the nutrition has been tweaked a little bit, or the nutrition has stayed the same, but the training plan has been updated, and that's about it. The coaching journey initially wants to be small little micro adjustments to sometimes like all 4 of the levers, never all at once, but it might be like the first 2 to 3 weeks, the client is progressing great. So let's just nudge like their step count up again. If they've come to us and habitually they're averaging about 3,000 steps, at weeks 2 to 3, once they're in the habit, can we just get them to 5K, for example? That might be one of the levers. We pull that, they start hitting 5K steps. And then the next tweak might be, okay, on their 3 rest days from the gym, I'm gonna actually just reduce their carbohydrate intake a little bit on these days. So now we've used the nutrition lever. Then we leave them again for like a week or 2 or so on. And then we see that they're getting stronger. So we make just 1 or 2 of their exercises a little bit more advanced, or they give us some feedback on not being able to feel a certain muscle during an exercise. So we change that. or perhaps they're starting to get stronger, so we lower the rep range a touch. We can make a few changes there without completely having to overhaul and give a new program. And then, of course, there's supplements as well. So you might get 8, 10, 12 weeks in, and then a client says to you, hey, I'm feeling like a bit backed up, digestion-wise, I'm feeling a little bit bloated. Maybe we can add some peppermint oil capsules to a couple of their meals. Maybe there's some psyllium husk that we can add to help with appetite or, digestion and so on. So there's like little micro progressions that we should be making throughout the coaching relationship. If the plan is largely the same from weeks 1 through 6 through 12, they're just like, well, where am I progressing? What's changing? So using all 4 levers of progression is super important. Next up is what I call the coach framework. Again, mission critical. Out of everything I'm about to teach you on here, this might be the most important one. So most coaches have really good intentions, but they make a big mistake when it comes to their check-in process by trying to fix every single problem that comes up. It's like, oh, I noticed that you only managed to get to the gym 2 times last week. Okay, so this week I really want you to focus on, getting to the gym at least 3 times and doing this and doing this and doing this. Oh, and I also noticed that like your water's quite low at the moment. You're not really tracking that. So if we can just push that up to the 3 liters that we mentioned, and I know your steps, I know we've been trying to work on it, but if we can try and just get that up to the 10,000 a day, and then obviously I know the weekends, that's where you tend to go out with your friends. If we can just try and make some better choices over the weekends, that would really help you. The coach has great intentions. The client just doesn't know which one to do. It's a lot of change. The best coaches that are the ones that are able to spot what the one issue is that if fixed would fix everything else and have the client starting to see results again. So when we talk about the coach method, which is COACH, the CO stands for core issue. So it's for you to identify what is the one thing that's bottlenecking this entire process. And I actually talk about constraints and stuff in one of my other videos. I'll try and link it here. It's my last video or the one before that. Really important. The A is an actual story. So you highlight what the issue is, and then you relay it to a story where either you have gone through and made the same mistake or issue, or a client has, so that it humanizes the process, right? And it makes the client feel, okay, this is normal. I'm not making a mistake here. I'm not being a bad client. And then the CH refers to change, which is what are the 1, 2, maximum 3 action steps that the client needs to take in order to fix this core issue. And then you sum it up going, anything I can help with, any questions on that, or do you agree? Are we in agreement? So we highlight what the core issue is, we relate it to an actual story in a time where you or another client has gone through it, and then we tie it in a bow with agreeing on the next steps and the change. So that is the coach framework, really, really important. And then this graph at the bottom, again, really important. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So on this graph here, the vertical axis, this refers to customer experience. So this is you going over and above. So the top of it, up here, is you going over and above and doing delivering a great service, all the bells and whistles, maybe some welcome gifting, some bits that surprise them. You get on with them really well. This bottom section represents obviously the opposite, which is poor customer service, you speaking to them like a robot, and them just kind of being a bit like, eh. This horizontal axis on the left side represents a lack of results, and on the right side, obviously, getting results, right? So it's very obvious that we don't want to be in this bottom box down here. This means poor customer service and poor results. This is very, very obvious. But these 2 areas here are kind of like danger zones. So on the right side, this is where the client is getting results, but they don't really feel that they have great connection or rapport with the coach. The service itself is just it's just doing what it said on the tin. And I'm moving the right direction, but once I reach my goal, I have no reason that I would stay. I don't feel that the coach is really going over and above here. The top left means that you're basically a bit of a rent-a-friend. You're really nice, you're going over and above, you speak to them really nicely, you send them the welcome gifts, you send them the little messages, but ultimately 8, 12, 16 weeks in, they still look the same. So it's what am I paying for? Really where we need to be is this top right section where the client is getting results that exceed the expectations, but they feel that they've really got like a 1 in a million coach in you. And that if they were to ever leave your service, they would never find that level of coaching anywhere else. So it's really important for you to sit and break down, where do I sit on this scale? Do I talk to my clients like very, very blunt and there's not a lot going on, beyond that? They literally get exactly what they signed up for. They're seeing results, but that's about it. If so, just don't be surprised when they hit their results, they don't stay. And then on the other side of it, are you really nice and your clients love messaging you backwards and forwards? But ultimately, if you're honest with yourself 3 or 4 months in, when you look at the photos or the graphs, your clients have not really made any significant progress compared to if they'd just gone it alone. And again, if that's the case, you just can't expect them to stay, right? Now, we're going to move into the final piece, which is the kind of longer term sort of tactics for retention here. So this is my opinion on coaching, but I think the client-friend relationship kind of works on a continuum. So at the beginning of somebody's coaching journey, we really want to hold authority. So you really need to have a strong frame as being their coach and they're the client. It's not being a robot, but it's being assertive. It's being like a doctor and making a prescription and just ultimately holding the authority frame and the expert frame as they start getting results. The problem is if you stay like this at month 6, month 12, and so on, again, there's no real the person just doesn't, the client doesn't buy into you as a person. However, if over time you make an effort to just slowly nudge yourself along this scale a little bit as they start to see results, and this is small things like remembering their kids' names, knowing whether they're in a relationship or not, knowing when their birthdays are, knowing when their holiday is coming up, the one that they told you about 2 months ago, beating them to it. Reacting and replying to their stories, on Instagram, if they're active on Instagram. It's these little touch points and like moments of magic, or if they're struggling with something. For example, back in the day, one of my female clients, on one of her check-ins, she said that she was struggling with Romanian deadlifts, that she feels she could be stronger, but her hands end up letting go of the bar, like her grip goes. So without saying anything, that day, I just went on Amazon, I ordered her some wrist straps, got it sent with a little note, saying like, here's to the next. And then I put the exact weight that we were trying to strive for, PB. It just blew her away. It was that little like magic moment that was like, I listen, I care. I go, above and beyond. Another example is with a client that was with me for 5 years. Again, we edged along this continuum to here until it got to a point where we were actually going out for a steak. We made it a tradition. Every December, we would go to Hawksmoor Steakhouse. We would go and enjoy a steak and old fashions together every single year as he was a client. So the thing that I will say is there has to be like a cutoff where they still have to be getting results, okay? And you still have to be coaching them to a high level, but we can just become a bit more personable. We can start to speak to them about their private life a little bit. But I think there has to be a barrier where it's like, we don't get friend zoned, So it's always this side of it. But at the beginning of the coach relationship, it might be more here. And then as we start to get into it, maybe you sit around just after the kind of the midway point. So that's kind of the client-friend continuum, as I say. Next up is this bit here. So on the left side, this represents when somebody starts their journey with you, which means that obviously they're probably quite far away from their initial goals. And then this over here on the right side is them once they've hit their goal. So I don't know about you, but it can feel like quite a long distance for somebody to go from starting with you to hitting that end result. So what I tend to try and do is break down kind of little milestones for them to reach along the way. And what this does is it just shortens the distance between each milestone. So instead of it feeling, let's say somebody comes to you and they've got a really, really large amount of weight to lose, and we know it's probably going to take this person, 6, 8, 10, 12 months. They've got, 40, 50 plus pounds to lose. That can feel pretty demotivating when the client's 3 months in following the process and they don't feel like they've had a win yet. So instead, we can place these little sort of milestones that can either be about their goal, or it can even be as simple as like setting a target of a certain amount of weight sessions or strength sessions that they've completed, a certain amount of check-ins that they would have done. We just want to break down their journey into like, what are the small pieces that they need to have accomplished along the way to reaching the big goal, we make these little mini milestones known, and then we incentivize them and congratulate them once they've hit it. So for example, for us on the OTE, our long-term goal really when somebody works with us is longer term. I want people doing, 20+ thousand pound months. But when somebody first joins us, that's not even on their radar. Most of our clients are just like, if I can just hit, my first £3,000 month, that would be amazing. So that's what we anchor them on. We send out hoodies, to them to congratulate them once they've done that. Then when they hit 5K, there's an opportunity for them to move into our Inner Circle program, where they get just a bit more TLC and so on. So these are like little milestones that gamify the process along the way to the bigger goal. And now finally is this bit here. This is really important. So there's a phrase that I like to live by called sell them what they want, give them what they need. So for example, a great thing to do is you probably have most of your clients coming to you for an improvement in their aesthetics. So this would be that they want to lose body fat, they want to look a certain way, improve their confidence. It's probably where most of your clients are right now. We want to get them on the inside of the program. We want to get them working towards these goals. And as they start realizing them and they start reaching these goals, then if there are other things that you are passionate about, an example could be maybe you're really into longevity now. Another thing could be like events, whether it's marathons, half marathons, Hyroxes. Another thing could be, are you really into like strength training and actual performance? So what we start to do is once we've got a client that's now approaching their goals or completed their main goal, at this point, hopefully they love working with us. Exercise and nutrition and stuff is a part of their life. They're starting to get bitten by the bug. So now we have an opportunity to start exciting them and moving them into new goals on the back end that take the focus away just from the aesthetics. The issue is that most coaches try and do this from day one when the client's not mentally there yet. They're still in the position of, I just want to go on holiday and be able to wear swim shorts or be able to wear a bikini and just feel confident and not have to put my arm over my belly and hide it and so on. That's where they're at. And then we're trying to talk to them about stability and habit formation and strength training and injury rehab and longevity and so on. They're just not there yet. So we want to build that into your like coaching process. And that ultimately is how you start taking people from 6, 12, 18, 24 plus months into working with you. So I hope this has been useful. I know there's quite a lot. What I would now do is break down, do you feel that you have a short-term, mid-term, or long-term issue when it comes to client delivery? And then just rewatch that section and figure out what are the 2 to 3 things that I can improve within that. And then you can move to the next section and the next section. And of course, if you want me and my team to just pretty much do this for you and roll up our sleeves and just help you build this for your delivery processes, then there's a link below where you can find out some information on how to work with us. So with us, you're going to have private monthly one-on-one calls. You have a private communication channel with your coach. You've got all modules that make this look like child's play. Resources, we build out your tech stack, group calls, community events, you name it, we do it. We're just here to help fast track somebody getting off the ground, starting their business, and then getting it to that next level. So if that sounds good, you want to find out more, just head to that link below. Catch you in the next video.